Good morning, and thank you for joining me for an episode of the Pickled Perspective. Today, we are going to be talking about branding, marketing, swag, and really the importance of how all of these things collide and what all that means. So let's start with branding. So, whether you're a creator, a podcaster, whatever, at some point you are creating a brand. So it might be your name, it might be a company, it might be your podcast name, but whatever that name is, it becomes a brand. So, PodOps, which if you're watching the video, the live stream, the replay, you can see it above my head, big and bright in neon letters. PodOps is our brand. The full name of the company is Podcast Operations. We don't really use that a lot because it is a mouthful. We go with PodOps. It's much easier. It's got ops in the name. People like to say ops. It's a little bit more fun. We also then have the, oops, wrong way. It's fun to watch yourself on video because you can't really tell what's happening. We've got the icon, which is the microphone. And what's behind me is our original logo, and it's in the pink and purple colors. And then over the last few years, that's evolved. We've still kept those core features, but the purples have changed. We've added in blues, we've added in greens. As you can see to the side of me, we've got the pickle in the branding, where we started to pull in Teddy Pickles, our mascot, my dog, which then leaned into our pickle posse. And so, all of these are the pieces of our brand, but how did we get here? Or, how did we settle on these pieces? And so it really starts with defining just the basics. So what's your branding guide? And I'm not a designer, so I am not speaking to you from the standpoint of, oh, you've got to be a design expert. No, you've kind of got to know what you like. So if it's your brand, so for myself, I went on Google and searched free logo generators, and started putting in PodOps, Podcast Operations, and had it spin out variations of logos until I found one I kind of liked. And then I went on Fiverr and I found a designer that I liked their catalog of work. And I said, hey, could you take this and here's how I'd like to tweak it. And then they came up with the idea where if you look at the letters, how you've got kind of these circles and little joints in the logo. So they made it more unique and helped bring that vision to life. So you can use a free tool like a logo generator to get yourself started. Or if you have Canva, even on the free plan, I think you can use their logo generating tool to do something like that. And then go find yourself someone on Fiverr or Upwork who is really affordable. And you're also then supporting another small business. And honestly, I think the logo originally 4 years ago cost maybe $50 before tip to create. And then you can also define your color palette. So that designer, they recommended the pinks and the purple tones. They helped with picking the hex colors. So whether you understand hex or RGB, they can help, define and tell you what those colors are. And then those colors, when you're building a website or you're designing your podcast color, those are things you can share with a future designer. Or if you do design something in Canva, you'll have those colors to plug in so things match exactly. And then as you start to look at the font, obviously the font in our logo is very unique. So we have to use things that are similar because nothing is going to look like that exactly on the web. So we use fonts like Poppins, which is rounded, it's bold. Lotto, which again, rounded, bold, looks really good in fonts for text on a page, looks really good in print. And then think about the evolution. So just because you create this logo, it doesn't have to stay static. And that's where, you can really differentiate yourself. So we like to play with that. And that's where I'll bring some of the swag in. So for shirts, we've done things like this for conferences where you've got PodOps at the top. We don't even have the microphone in here. This is where we really started leading into Teddy Pickles as the mascot, bringing in the greens and the blues. I'll share this. I think it's kind of funny. Is one person did think it said poops, like it does say PodOps, but from a distance, it does look like it says poops if you don't really look at the D. And then our most recent conference shirt, again, we tried to make sure it represented creators and brought in more of the microphones. You can see the O's within, or their headphones, like little ear pods within the O's. Again, these came from concepts of something I envisioned, and then I found somebody online because as a small business, we don't have a full-time designer. One, we don't have the budget to employ somebody who's going to want a six-figure salary. We also don't have enough work to employ a full-time designer and keep them busy. So that's where it's great to use these resources that can support you, but also do quick turn work. You can support another small business. It's a great way to partner. And it also gives you a bigger network of people to work with, especially as you're trying to do something different year over year. Like this was a great design, but we don't want the exact same thing at the next conference because we want to do a different shirt every year. And these are swag pieces that each year we try to make it unique. So you can't buy these shirts. You have to meet us at a conference. And then we make sure that they're also different from our staff shirts. So this is what our staff was wearing. I'm sitting on it. Was wearing at the last conference, which had, again, Teddy Pickles. We've got a jar of pickles. It says PodOps hosting. And then the back, we leaned into a font that would be very familiar for people in our prime demographic age, who were mainly fans of the TV show Friends. So you've got that font. It says who we are, what we do, has our website, but it's much bigger rather than what you'd see on a website we're going to give to a user, where any type of branding with our website, it's going to be a lot smaller because we're not trying to turn them into a walking billboard. But again, even with that shirt, we're not using our standard font. We're leaning into something fun and different because it's being uniquely used for a specific instance, where if it were a static branding item like a water bottle, which we did these 3 years ago, it's the traditional logo. It matches exactly to the brand. So this is something that we can use all the time. It's always representing the brand. It's going to be familiar across the board. But then if we want to do something unique, and this was one of my favorite things, we actually started selling these. They were so popular. These were the slap koozies. These use the traditional wording of the brand, but then they use the new logo, which has a slightly different microphone, and it brings in the new tones of purple and blue. And if you haven't seen these, they're really cool. So they do the slap on, which again, as you're thinking about swag items, you want to go for unique. So the slap koozie was a really unique thing that we rolled out this year. And that kind of came about by accident. We were thinking of doing a koozie, but I was hesitant because all the cans are different now. So you've got all these like tall, skinny cans for like a Truly type of drink or the seltzer drinks. And then you've got bottles that have fatter bottoms, and then you've got traditional cans. So I was like, do we really want to do a koozie and put it out there and go to a conference where it only fits a traditional, 12-ounce can of soda or beer, and then most people aren't going to want it. And we just happened to be searching online looking for bulk vendors that could create koozies, and one vendor had this option to do slap koozies and do it customizable. So there's also that you can start to search online, and some of that's going to give you some inspiration where maybe it's not exactly what you were thinking, but you can come up with something cool. Or honestly, you can steal somebody else's idea. So something I saw at another conference this summer were these fans. They are USB, USB-C, whatever. They plug into iPhone and Android. So they're a 3-in-1 fan. They work really well. Saw these at another conference, but they had not branded them. So I thought that was a huge missed opportunity for them. I looked online. I found somewhere that could bulk produce them for a good deal. They're actually really high quality. This is pretty hefty, and they blow really well. So it plugs into the bottom of your phone. You can plug it into your iPad or your tablet, whatever you use. Hopefully it doesn't make too much noise, but you can see it works quite well. I don't have any hair, so nothing's going to blow, but There we go. There's a paper. You can see it floating the paper. But this was one that people ate this up, especially if you're exhibiting at a conference. Conferences get hot. So think about where you're giving away swag. So the koozies were popular. These were popular. These were gone in our first day. We only brought 100 to the conference because we weren't sure how they were going to react, or people were going to react. They loved them. And this was an evolution to something we brought out 2 years ago. We brought handheld fans. These ones were also really popular, but the older version, you can hear how loud it is. We brought these. People love them because not only did it bring a fan, but it had batteries. We gave you the batteries. So if you're going to bring these types of things, don't cheap out on people. Make sure that you're giving them all the tools they need to use it, but brand it. Never miss the opportunity. And if it's something where a person is putting it in their face, like these fans, make sure your logo is front and center. So this one, as soon as you look at it, you are seeing this. We went out to a restaurant this past weekend, and somebody locally I had given one of these 2 weeks ago is still walking around using it. I thought that was hilarious. I love seeing that. These are things people will keep and reuse and reuse. Again, something to consider. Find practical, useful swag that people will want to keep. Another thing, not as popular with the younger generation, but people in my age group and older, they still like the pop sockets. So these are still really popular. The last conference, we gave out over 200 of these. This is our classic one with the original logo that you see right behind me. We do 4 variations of this now, which also have versions with our product names. So PodOps Hosting, Connect, and Studio. So again, another thing you can find online, you can get produced in bulk really affordably, generally $1 or less to produce those, and makes it really easy to give those away. And it's something they put on their phone. They have their phone with them all the time, and it keeps your name and your logo front and center. So again, anything you can do to make it reusable and functional. So kind of going back to design, I know I jumped right into the swag because I think that's the most fun. You do want to be consistent as far as quality and your branding. At some of these conferences, we do see companies roll out a garbage swag. I'll just say it that way. It's the only way I can think of it. If you can't do it right, don't do it. And if you're unsure, you might want to ask a partner or somebody their thoughts on swag you're going to roll out. Cheap bags or bad shirts, cheap totes, things that are, going to disintegrate in a day or two. Don't put your logo on bad products that are going to go in the garbage and create waste, or going to fall apart, or won't even make it home with somebody. I also, the shirts, we get requests, especially for this shirt, which is now 2 years old. And I have mailed them to users and people who've requested them, who couldn't make it to conferences where we exhibited with this. Create something people want. I'll pick on Libsyn a little bit. At this last conference, they had their 20th anniversary shirt. They could have done such a cool shirt, and it just seemed kind of like it fell flat. It's not something that I would want to wear if I didn't work for their company and I wasn't being paid. So they could have done something really cool that represented maybe the history of podcasting over the last 20 years. They were the first platform, as far as I know, to have really that self-service interface. I think they could have just done something that looked really cool, and it just was very basic corporate. And maybe the design team didn't have as much control as we would as a small company. But those are things to consider, especially as you're small. You can do whatever. You don't have a board. You don't have CEOs telling you what to do. Make sure that whatever you're putting out there represents your brand, that you're proud of it, and that you would want it out there. You do want to be consistent with your branding. So whatever you are putting out, you might have something unique like these shirts I'm showing you, but it should still pull in elements that are going to be on your social, that are appearing on your website. So the color should be reflective, unless you do something that is a complete one-off or something very special. You want to pull those things through. So like I said, we've leaned into the pickle marketing because Our mascot is Teddy Pickles. Our users are the Pickle Posse. So that is a part of our branding now. So it's included in everything. Even this podcast is called The Pickled Perspective. I mean, if you notice, there's always some kind of pickle in everything we're doing now. So again, make sure there's consistency, that there's kind of a full loop of what you're doing, what you're talking about, and then how things look and reflect on one another. And then listen to what people are saying. So at every conference we go to, we get compliments on the swag, on the branding, how good things look, which always makes you feel good, but make sure you're really listening to that. Anything that people are not commenting on is probably because it's either not hitting or they don't like it. So just because something gets no comment does not mean that they, try to think of the right way to phrase that. If it's not getting commentary, it's probably just not good enough. So if nobody's taking it, if it's not running out, ditch it. Don't bring it back. Don't keep bringing it back. When people tell us they love these shirts, it pushes us to how can we make the next one better? The fans, they were such a favorite that for our next event, we're bringing them in 4 colors. The koozie, we will be bringing back, but we're looking to do something fun with it. So it won't be back for at least 2 events because it's going to take a minute to create that. And then shirts, again, we won't bring them back until conferences later next year because that takes a minute to do the budgeting, shipping, and all that stuff. Because again, we're small. We don't have the big budgets of some of our large competitors who can just crank this stuff out. So that's the other thing. Think about your budget, plan ahead. When you think about shirts, if you're looking at ordering enough for a large conference, it's expensive. It is not cheap. So the last conference, if we're taking 1,000 shirts, you might be looking anywhere from $3,000 to $5,000 for cost, shipping, printing. The more colors you put on a shirt, the more it costs. So this shirt, these ones cost closer to $6,000 because of the vibrancy of the colors. And then these ones, we did a slightly different printing process so we could have more colors, but you notice they're slightly less vibrant, but that brought the cost a little bit down and kept it in the $5,000 range. So it's not cheap. Where our staff shirts were far less expensive, but you can see they are monotone, more or less. So all things to consider. Price is always something you have to reflect back on because without a budget, there's nothing you can do. You've got to plan ahead. So if you have any ideas for your branding or your marketing or your swag that you would like help with, feel free to reach out. We're always happy to give advice. Look for us at the Afro and Audio Conference in Baltimore this October, and then at PodFest in Orlando in January, where we will have our newest set of swag items. And of course, it is always free for you to get when you meet us in person. And then next year in August in Dallas, we'll have our newest shirt designed to come. We might actually do a competition to ask for submissions on what might be interesting for that. So we'll see how that goes. But thanks for tuning in, and I look forward to talking to you again on Thursday.